I was at the top of the world right after Idol, where I had money, I had all the jobs I could want, and was the most miserable I've ever been in my life. I basically let myself sink down to the bottom. When I sank down to the bottom and I wasn't making any money anymore and I wasn't getting recognized and all these big things that people care about, I basically got to the place where nothing was happening in my career, nothing, and I was happy. Okay, now let's hit the ground with that as the foundation.
Welcome, Walker Burroughs. So the reason we're here today is I saw a TikTok of yours, and this is a paraphrase, but pretty close to exactly what you said. I didn't know who I was when I came out of the show. That's American Idol. I had to build myself back from the ground up, and I did that very systematically. I could make a whole video about the things that I did. Right when you said that, I was like, I know exactly where this is going. I felt like I did. And I would love to have him do that on my podcast. And I don't know if you've had a space to kind of talk about what you did, building yourself back up after American Idol. But that's kind of what I'd like to talk about today. What you did end up going on to say is the last 2 years I've spent answering the question, and this is what I kind of expected: why am I making music? Which I think is a fascinating question to be asking, and something that a lot of artists don't do.
Sure.
And I really would like to get to that question.
Yeah.
But can you just kind of set the scene here as we start out? I think you were 20 when you started American Idol.
I was 19.
What were you hoping to get out of the show? Like, where were you at kind of as a person and human being? I'll just kind of open that up to you.
Totally. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Kirk. Very happy to be here. Dude, I was 19. I was a music education major at Belmont.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a choir teacher. I still might do that someday. I think I would have a good time. But I basically got casted onto American Idol. I assume you know that they do that. I don't know. I don't think it's common knowledge, but maybe.
Yeah, I know that, obviously.
I don't know if a lot of people not in the music world know.
Yeah. They used to be able to just have people. I think The Voice really changed that, because The Voice started casting people, and then probably to be competitive, American Idol had to start,
I guess so,
just finding really talented artists to be on the show.
Well, they reached out through Instagram. They found my phone number, which I had up on there, and they gave me a call while I was playing.
So they pursued you.
They pursued me, and I wouldn't have ever done it without that. That was I was the guy in high school that could sing. And so people were always like, you should try out for American Idol, because that's what everyone says when you can sing, when you're not in Nashville.
Right.
And,
they say the opposite in Nashville. But
it's actually funny, people that I've met or that I'm doing shows elsewhere, and they come up to me, they're like, you should really do American Idol. And I'm like, well, I already did.
Hey, the bright side of that is people don't necessarily know that, they don't know you or your story from American Idol.
Yes, people come I'll open for people, and in some Boston or something, and I'm in Boston and I'm singing my songs, and then someone comes up after and they're like, no offense, but I didn't know who you were before this. And I'm like, that's great. That's what I want. If this show is what you learned my music from, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think what maybe a lot of people don't know outside of Nashville or the music industry is you don't necessarily, doesn't always work. Sometimes it's a positive experience, sometimes it's not, but you don't necessarily want these shows telling your story, or introducing you to the world, because you don't always have the choice of exactly what gets told, the story that gets told. That's
the thing, and I've always said that, is since the show, it's a lot about luck. I fit into a box that they needed, which was boy next door, and he's quirky, and he's blah blah blah. I was also extremely moldable, because I didn't know who I was. I was not pursuing an artistry thing, and so I had never asked the question, what am I trying to say? What do I want that to sound like? And then what does that look like? What are the visuals with it? What am I dressed like? And, like I would go into wardrobe and they'd be like, okay, what's your style? And I literally was like, I don't know.
Gap?
Gap? Maybe Old Navy something? I don't know. And it's like all these Hollywood like wardrobe people that are like, okay. And so I did the best I could, man. But whatever, I was just there having a good time, learning a lot, meeting a lot of people. And it was really awful in a lot of ways, like a ton of pressure. I had a lot of personal stuff going on in my life that was like outside of, I think, just like the early 20s hard. Like I had a lot of like really kind of traumatic stuff going on. And so the whole 6 months became this really kind of negative experience. I came out on the other side expecting people that were like producers on the show and other people that had kind of told me the whole time, hey, this is your big break. This could be like huge for you. Oh my gosh, you're amazing at singing and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And I came out on the other side expecting them to like give me advice and help me out, or like maybe use their connections to like get me in the door somewhere, or whatever that meant in my like completely naive mind. And nothing happened because they don't care, and they are moving. They're immediately moving on to the next season.
Right.
And that's all fine. That's what their job is. But they made it seem to me like that they were going to help. They made it seem like they cared about me in a real way. And it was very, like, part of the hardness afterward was that it was very crushing that they weren't. So then, like, I had something similar to momentum with all this. Like, I had a big platform now. I had a bunch of streams happening. I was getting all these like really awesome gigs. I was touring, playing keys for a guy named Bobby Bones, like singing some of my songs during his set. And the whole time I was also a full-time student. And so I was just way too busy. And I ended up taking off the next semester just cause I was like way too depressed and could not get myself, like, if I was not in class or on the road, I was like in bed feeling awful. So anyways, that's the setup. That's where we start. I come out on the other side, and I have this distinct memory of like getting on the phone with somebody, actually called Bobby's manager, who's like this, big hotshot manager in town, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I get on the phone with him and I'm like, hey man, what do I do? What am I supposed to do with all this that's happening and all this that's not happening and all this blah, blah, blah. And he was like, give me your elevator pitch. And I went, what? He goes, tell me who you are. Like, who are you as an artist? Like, in a couple sentences. And this is, we already talked about one before we started recording, but this is a moment where I literally was like, I can look back and just wince at my answer, because I was I had no idea. I was like, well, I like to make music because it brings people together, and I like singing songs. So now I'm doing that for my job. And it's like, okay, that doesn't tell me anything. Everyone likes those same things. So
well, dude, this is why I started this podcast. I feel like that is what you just described is so common for, a 19, 20-year-old or even older to come to this town, to have the questions of like, what do I do? Where do I go? And then they call someone up who's in the industry, and many, many times get manipulated or used, and my goal, obviously the title of the podcast is Stay Independent, is to support artists staying independent and figuring those questions out independent from those possibly manipulative industry people, or just people that are committed to corporate interests, not necessarily with American Idol. It's the bottom line of getting viewership and making sure they have all the slots cast that they need cast. It's not necessarily like, and they'll tell you whatever they need to tell you to get you to come and do that. It wasn't even necessarily something that you were pursuing, like you said.
Yeah, and so I I love that. And I love that is what the goal is, because I have much to say. About this topic.
Well, also, man, you you also being like, I didn't, looking back and cringing at what you said, so many artists are in that position, and I think it was one of the things that surprised me most about moving in town 5 years ago. I moved here to do content with artists because I felt like that was, outside of writing a good song, the number one thing an independent artist could do to grow their careers.
Yeah.
And when I started to consult artists and work with them, we would be strategizing the type of content we're going to play or post, and was just surprised to hear a lot of what you described earlier. Just like I don't really. It's like music brings us together. All these I just want to sell out stadiums. There's all these different phrases that people say. So I'm really so interested to hear this journey you've been on over the last couple of years to now release this EP.
Yeah. So
can you walk us through that a little bit?
I would love to. And again, I could probably take up more time than you have, but I get that phone call ends with him saying, the manager saying, "Hey, Walker, you don't know who you are. You got off the show and expected everything to happen for you, and it's not going to. You have to figure out who you are. Come back." He's like, "Come back to me in a year. I'll get you a pub deal." I didn't do that. And then he's like, "And then in 5 years, you can start releasing music after you post every day." Or, and I don't know if I agree with that, but
yeah,
it was this wake up call. It was this shaking of the first time someone was that honest with me, and he wasn't mean about it. He wasn't being malicious. He was, I think actually one of the most helpful things I heard was, "You don't know who you are. You have to figure it out." So, I'm still in school. COVID is happening. I am working with a professor at Belmont. Her name is, Kate Paradise. She runs the jazz group, and she was my vocal teacher. And I came to her the next semester and I said, "Kate, I have to figure out who I am, and I don't know where to start." And so we came up with a way to begin, and then just tried to see what happens from there.
Wow, I'm excited for this.
It's not actually all that groundbreaking.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But I'm at this point doing music full time. I'm a student, but I'm making my living, paying all my rent, paying all my bills with music. I'm doing this, and I have no clue who I am. So, okay, we got nothing to lose. Let's just see what happens. I began making lists of things. I was trying a bunch of new things, and I would make lists of things that I enjoyed. Step one.
Yeah.
As that list grew, and I'm talking not just music, I'm talking everything. I tried new things that scared me. I went camping by myself for the first time, which was terrifying. And I would attempt to try to make kind of new kinds of videos. I did a little stop motion thing. I did all this kind of creative stuff, but not really necessarily toward music. Started rock climbing, did all this stuff. Writing down what I enjoyed, and then I find from that first long list, I find common factors. I look for patterns in that.
Yeah.
I assume that these things that I enjoy can also make me feel like myself. Is kind of what I was experimenting with. As I find those common denominators, I then have a list of descriptive words, kind of nature-based, funny, outdoorsy, feel good, relaxing. It's not party. He's a partier.
Yeah.
It started narrowing that gap. And
what's interesting about this? I feel like what you're describing, what I've started doing with clients to get to this. I mean, as quickly as possible. is using brand archetypes. Have you heard of the brand archetypes?
Maybe.
I mean, what you're describing is essentially like a cross section of a handful of brand archetypes. So like the jester archetype, I want to communicate my message like unseriously and like with a little humor. It's going to be outdoorsy and it, like that's to me like the explorer archetype. But I feel like sorry, continue. I just wanted to.
No, I love that. I haven't heard of that, and I would honestly, if you want to like send those to me, I can check. I would love to check them out.
I made a quiz actually that you can take, and it identifies your top 3.
Wait, that's
so I'll
super
send that
cool.
to you after.
But here's the crucial thing: you can't take that quiz accurately unless you know some of those things about yourself.
Yeah,
and I didn't know those things about myself, and I was not well. I had a lot of mental health stuff going on, but just practicing looking for things that made me feel like me, and then being able to find the patterns in that was the starting place. It was the first like solid foothold I had on the journey, and I remember feeling so excited about just like, oh man, if someone asks, I can tell them these 4 words that describe me as a person, and then there is a place to go like, okay, now that I know who I am, how does that intersect with what I want to say and like the songs that I'm writing? How does that inform what I write and what does it sound like and all that? And it took years, dude. It took a ton of years to get there. But I also...
What took a lot of time, do you think?
Well, partially, music school made me feel like complex music was good music. So I had to break that mold a little bit. Once I had these words, oh man, this is so fun. I have a lot of different ways I could tell you about this. One way is that during all this time, the only music that I regularly listened to was soundtracks or like scores from movies.
Oh, wow.
And I would always say like, I don't listen to the kind of stuff that I write, because they just served different purposes. And eventually I found the album Back Home Again by John Denver. And I played the first song, and then I just like, I remember like sitting down in my kitchen and just like legs up and just like, wait, this feels the same way I feel when I listen to the soundtrack stuff. I realized
this is your first time hearing John Denver.
Not first time hearing John Denver. I've heard Country Roads. I've heard.
Okay, got it.
I've heard his big songs, but I hadn't like dove into the lesser known stuff, I guess, and or just the next tier down below like Country Roads, and so I basically dove into that feeling. And I realized I found it in James Taylor, who I really grew up listening to. Basically, I found myself and the things that I thought I was or know that I am now from those lists that I made. I found those feelings in the music that I was listening to, James Taylor, John Denver, and realized that there was music that I could write and perform that had the same purpose as the scores that I was listening to, which is to help me feel more present with where I am. That's why I listen to music.
Yeah.
And John Denver makes me feel that way, and and John Williams makes me feel that way.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have to be this big, complex. I was like, Jacob Collier is the peak of all music, and I love Jacob Collier, but you know what I mean? That whole thing of music school kids.
Yes.
Oh man, he's the best, and I do love Jacob. I'm not gonna hate on Jacob, but I used to be like, oh, if only I could make music like Jacob. No, Walker, what are you doing? What are you thinking? And so like I started trying to write the simplest songs that I could. That was that became the motivation, and as I did that, it felt like me. It felt like I could find in the songs the same kind of patterns that I found in the lists I had made about me just exploring new activities and ways I connected with myself.
Can you dive into this a little deeper or help me understand? So you've said this a couple of times in different ways. Yeah. So I was practicing doing things that made me feel like me. Is that feel accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It's interesting to hear that call to practice, which I is totally valid, and it's cool. I love just the way that you worded that. But how did you know that it was something that made you feel like you? Like, what does that feel like? Sorry if this is no, okay.
This is great. Yeah. This is great. I love that question. I think that for me, the reason I ask it that way has to do with how depressed I was. I was clueless and I was depressed, and I came out of the other side of American Idol having completely forgotten who I was. Not just musically, because I didn't ever know that. Personally, socially, I had social anxiety for the first time ever. Yeah. That's like very not me. All these things were happening where I just was like, who am I? And then I meet people, and for a long time, they already knew who I was when I met them. Like if it was at a Belmont thing, I was like, hey, I'm Walker. And they're like, we know who you are. Like I lost my chance to show people a first impression. And that felt weird. So I think the context of that question comes from that I didn't know at all who I was. I hope that people that are listening maybe aren't in that same place. But if you are, know that there's hope. But I say practice the things that make you feel like yourself. And what I'm really saying is do things that you like. Do things that fill you up. I've been playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons recently. Yeah. And like my fiance Hannah plays with us. And when she plays, it is draining to her. She enjoys it a lot, but it's very draining. After the session, she's ready to go right to bed. And for me, I'm like, oh, I'm wired. I feel so full. Like I've just used my brain very extensively for like 2.5 hours. And then I still want to keep going. Like that makes me feel alive. That makes me feel like myself. That's the same thing with rock climbing, same thing with camping, same thing with, So just doing things you like. Yeah. And being intentional about making a choice to do that when you feel confused about what am I?
What's the connection? So you maybe like have an idea of like, oh, I feel like something that might fill me up is going camping or rock climbing or stop motion film. So you're trying these things. You're like, no, stop motion.
Stop motion wasn't it. Spoiler alert. That wasn't it. It was fun, but it was not it.
Stop motion. Wow, so intense.
Yeah, I was, oh God, my back was hurting so bad. Anyway.
But you start to find, you make this list, you test it, you kind of have this hypothesis on what's going to fill you up. You test it, you find these things. All right, how do you go from like, now I found these things. How do you go from that to the music that you start making?
Oh, geez. Yeah. Dude,
I mean, you've kind of said this, but like, I'm just trying to, it helps me to have like a step. I need like steps.
And I think that's another part of the long part. I didn't have like Kate and I, my professor, we started that journey together and then I graduated. So I had this list of like, here's Walker and maybe here's what I'm trying to say. But I didn't start making music that sounds the way that this project that I just put out sounds until this past year. And that's 5 years after Idol. I think the next step after figuring out those things is...
We haven't even gotten to the music yet. This is just right. Like, this is stuff that fills me up.
This is stuff that fills me up.
Yeah.
And all the while I'm still writing songs.
Yeah.
But I'm stuck in, they have to be complex to be... Good.
Yeah.
And I think what happened, I was writing with a buddy of mine and we spent like an hour and a half, 2 hours trying to write this one tune and it wasn't happening. I actually really don't like co-writes most of the time. I've gotten a little better about it the last couple of years, but a lot of that comes from like insecurity and stuff that I've had. But this one friend I can write with, he's really kind. We couldn't get a song out. And then we were like, all right, let's just scrap it and see if we can write something really fast. Okay, go. And in 20 minutes, we wrote a song called Pretty Penny, which I did release. It's one of my songs that's out. And I remember writing that song and feeling so jazzed, like so stoked about it. And I was like, wait, but it didn't take very long. And wait, but it only uses like a couple of chords. Like it's not that complex, but it's so lovely. And then I would like play it for people and they really liked it. And I think what I realized, or no, maybe it's like a feeling. Maybe knowing what feels like me became a feeling that I had practiced. I knew what that felt like. So when I wrote this song, I felt a similar feeling. And it wasn't exactly right, but it was like in the right direction. Yeah. And I had this moment like, okay, what if I try to write simple songs? What if being me isn't complex? What if it's just simple, lovely, beautiful things like Edelweiss or something, you know, just that's like timeless and lovely. Not that I can write Edelweiss yet, hopefully one day.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
All right. So you had this feeling that you had from, what's one of the things that you've landed on that was rock climbing? Like, what's one of the things that fills you up?
Let's say Dungeons and Dragons or camping or something.
Camping fills you up.
It fills me up.
So you had a parallel feeling of like how camping makes me feel. This song makes me feel.
Yes.
Okay. There's the bridge. I feel like.
I think that's the bridge. It's that feeling. And having practiced doing things that make me feel like myself allowed me to be able to catch that feeling, just the little inklings of it that I had after writing Pretty Penny. And so I start writing with that feeling in mind. Okay, I kind of know the direction I can go to get that feeling. Let's write simple songs and see what happens. And it took a while to let myself do that. I had to start writing all the lyrics to songs right before I went to bed. And then if I liked them enough, I would put them to music the next day. Just like fast. 90% of the stuff I was writing was garbage, like actually poo-poo garbage, like intentionally. I started writing bad poems every night. And then sometimes I would write a good enough one to like edit it the next day with music. And so that became the structure. It worked amazing. I wrote song after song after song, and they kept growing that feeling in me of like, this is the identity. This is the thing. Around this time is when I discovered that John Denver record, and I start listening to that so much. Like I've never listened to. At the time I would have said it. I've never listened to words with music this much. Sorry, music with words. Flip it around.
Not the soundtracks. Music with words for the first time, and so you kind of did like this is like the ginger, like you had a palate cleanser of soundtracks, and that's what brought you back out of like music listening retirement.
Yeah, I mean, but you think about, I think about it now, like Joe Hisaishi, who does, I don't know if you know the Studio Ghibli films,
no.
My Neighbor Totoro and like Spirited Away. You should watch them. They'll blow your mind. Actually, they'll blow your soul is what people say.
That's awesome.
The melodies are like the best score melodies are so simple. They're so, like you can think of dun dun da da dun 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 dun.
Yes.
Dun, 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 dun. Just like lovely little thing. That's not complex. I think my influence from the scores and from like Joe Hisaishi and things like that, who was like my number one artist for a long time, and then combine that with like the substance of John Denver kind of stuff and James Taylor, which is very like nature-based metaphors, connecting things I'm feeling with like a tree outside, or the way that the clouds look right now, or perhaps how a river can take me somewhere, and that feels special. Connecting the substance to like the things that make me feel like myself, outdoor things, with the simplicity of those melodies and the scores, all of it just became this like cauldron that I was like wickedly laughing over, and oh my gosh, every song I wrote, and my partner Hannah kept being like, "Oh, you're really figuring out the sound," and I'm like, "I know, wait, right, I know, right."
That's so encouraging.
And it took a long time to get there, but I got there. You know,
why did it? So you could have taken this feeling, and I think you could have done. I honestly think there are people out there that they take that feeling. This is this feeling that fills me up, and they apply that to spreadsheets. Or it could be in a creative. Yeah. It could be in another creative realm. It could be in filmmaking.
Sure.
Or why was it music for you? Why did you decide?
God, dude.
I mean, I know that's hard to like, because you're like, I'm going to be a choir teacher. You get cast in American Idol, and now you have all this like, wow. I don't know. You have all this like wealth of knowledge around how to. You've put in X number of your 10,000 hours in performance and songwriting. I know that you had that, but why did you end up deciding, okay, music is how I'm going to apply this?
That is such a great question.
Thanks, man.
Wow. Part of it is circumstance. Like I have always said, even when I didn't know who I was, like my whole family is musical. My grandfather was a music theory professor, and my dad writes, and my mom sings, and all this. And so I was always surrounded by it, and it was always something that I was really, I was loved enough to be good at. That was always true. I think that I realized that I went into music education because I was afraid that if I pursued artistry that people would think that I was conceited. Like there was an insecurity in that or something. And in myself.
So this was always kind of where your heart was calling you to.
If I look back, it's like the childhood dream, but I don't think I let myself believe that I could do it. One, because I didn't think I was good enough, and two, because I didn't want people to think that I thought that I was good enough. It's very like Alabama of me. You know what I'm saying? So,
yes.
So music. It's a great question, because I've also been wrestling with this recently, because I've heard like Vince Gill or somebody say, if you could be happy doing anything else, do that other thing. I don't think I agree with that. I don't know if it was Vince Gill or whoever it was. I don't know if I agree, because I could be really happy being a carpenter, I think. I think I could be really happy like being a luthier, making guitars, or like
I totally agree.
Being a park ranger. I could totally be happy doing that and be very fulfilled. I don't think that I am a person that part of my journey over the last couple of years is the job is not the thing that makes me happy. I find my own happiness in myself and in doing the things that I like. If I'm enjoying the passage of time, I'm happy. And that can be a lot of things. But music, one, I was already doing it, so it was a little easier just to keep doing it. That's true. But I have seriously asked the question, is this the thing? Because there are many times when I felt like maybe not. I have, with this project, which is called Outside the Frame EP, I have with this project and the process to get to the point where I was ready to record it, experienced, in the words of Ian McKellen, I have experienced becoming by just the creation. He says, like, write a poem or write a song or perform a play. Don't do it for anybody else. Do it just for you, so you can figure out who you are. And I heard that quote, and I'm just like weeping, because that's what happened. I was able to write these songs And both because I knew who I am, I wrote these songs, and because I wrote these songs, I know who I am. Like it's an interchangeable thing that has simply been the most successful and fulfilling and life-giving, like the D&D games, like to have written those songs and recorded those songs makes me feel alive. And that doesn't happen I do a lot of video editing and stuff. Like it doesn't happen with other stuff. I'm good at other things, but they don't make me feel the way that singing my songs does, and singing them in front of people and recording them with the right players and all that. So it kind of just had to be.
So you said that in your TikTok that I first saw you in. Yeah. You mentioned that push and pull of like, or that counterbalance of the art helped me get to, I know who I am because I made this thing, and like I was able to make it because I know who I am, but it also drove me into like deeper understandings of myself.
Yes.
What's fascinating about that is that's how I've always looked at. I come from the content space. Yeah. That's what I've always looked at branding as. I feel like, brand's there to convince the consumer that this product or thing can take them from where they're at to where they want to get. So in the case of Red Bull, the brand is there to convince you that a sugary caffeine drink is going to somehow allow you to live life on the extremes of like human performance.
Sure, right.
And is that true or not? I mean, I'll leave it up to the listener. But what the fascinating thing is about music is like, I feel like when it's done right, like this song, this product that you now can like listen to, it did help someone go from X to Y or A to B, I don't know. That's just, it's an incredible gift that you're able to, I think, share that. You said earlier that why music? When asked the question, why music? You told me because I loved it enough to be good at it. And, you've put in the time to figure out how to write a song that, can take someone from A to B, and it's done that for you, and maybe can do that for someone else.
Yeah, I also just think like there are a lot of people that end up in spaces. Well, first of all, thank you for those thoughts. I'm really grateful for like the way that things have happened, and that doesn't mean that I'm grateful for everything that has happened, but like I wrestle with like if I'm happy that I did American Idol. I said to Hannah, my partner, the other day, I was like, I wonder if I had just become a teacher, if I would have still figured out who I am, but maybe it just would have been easier. Maybe it would have been, maybe I wouldn't have been so depressed the whole time. So again, that speaks to like, I don't know if this is the only way that I could enjoy my life. And I actually think that's a really good thing. Because I'm going to do this thing as long as I can, and I'm going to love it as long as I can. And I'll make music till the day I die, but as far as if I'm doing it professionally or not, it's like, it's just something I'm enjoying and loving right now, and I'm going to keep doing it as long as that's true.
I mean, that's very honest to what you said. I mean, it's something that fills you up, so of course you're going to do it,
Yes.
And I feel like that there's something in that for artists to ask themselves, especially new artists, like, is this something that I would do regardless of what it can do for me, I think. Like,
wow. And I'm having a thought that's like combining that thing, like wait, I'm losing it. Kirk, I'm losing it. I'm losing the thought. Okay. I really liked it. I think basically was saying that this is the worst moment of my life. It's gone.
Well, let's summarize real quick, okay? Like I told you, I like the stepwise. So you started out, the manager told you, you don't know who you are, Walker. You're like, that's true.
Correct.
You went on this journey with your jazz vocal coach. You made lists of things that fill you up. then you started to notice the same feeling when you wrote certain types of songs or songs a certain way. Concurrently, like you were doing the question why music. It's something you've always loved enough to be good at. There is circumstance there with American Idol and your family, but I think like that carries me to like, all right, I understand why you're writing songs and kind of the vehicle for your message. But what is that message? Like how have you refined what you want to say through the music?
That is the question. And that's what we've been talking about this whole time. I basically say now that the music is a choice of joy as a resistance to everything going on. I think that I want to make things that help people feel present where they are. And I think the content of the music means that can largely mean like outdoor spaces, driving around and looking at the sky and the trees and the clouds. But it is that's kind of the very short thing. But it's a active choice of joy, even in the hard stuff. It's like we're going to choose joy here.
Do you feel like you're able to choose joy better when you're present, or like what's the connection there?
Wow. Another killer question.
Thanks, man.
Wait, ask it one more time.
Do you feel like you're able to choose joy when you're present? Like what's the connection between being present and maybe what your music helps people do and choosing joy?
Well, first of all, I don't know that I ever really connected with like just sad music, like just for me. And this is like, some people like tea, some people like coffee. I don't like listening to just sad music for the sake of like coming up with the saddest thing possible. I have been very depressed, very sad in my life. And the moments that I remember and the moments that I want to remember are the moments like when I'm in the car right after a camping trip at Roan Mountain on the border of Tennessee and North Carolina, and I'm driving back down the mountain and I'm listening to a soundtrack from Joe Hisaishi, and I feel so there. I am happy with every single second that is passing. And that is the feeling that I connect with, and that is the feeling that I want to create in the music that I'm making. And so, yeah, that's the connection. I think it's presence uplifting the joy and the joy uplifting the presence all together.
What's fascinating about that is like that's just such like a worthy mission to have as a calling on your life to like help people do. And has anything shifted for you in the way that you approach the music industry since like finding that?
Yes.
Like, because one thing that I believe about you is that even just after watching that like 4-minute TikTok is like, he knows exactly what he's trying to do with his music. He's found that and he will do it. Like it will happen.
Dude,
now, the depressing part is that it could happen in like 30, 40 years. And also,
right.
And also it could like with John Denver, he may pass and then like the song doesn't really like take a hold in like culture until after he's gone.
Totally.
But it's going to happen.
That's super kind. Thank you for saying that. Everything about the way that I view the music industry is through the lens of this conversation. I was at the top of the world right after Idol. I had I always talked about it like a very large, beautiful tree, and below the soil was like an inch of roots. Nothing was there. So the first storm came and knocked it right over. I have been at a place where I had money. I had all the jobs I could want. I had people stopping me in every grocery store asking who I was. I had all this stuff happening for years and was the most miserable I've ever been in my life. And so after the you need to figure yourself out, Walker, conversation and acceptance, I basically let myself sink down to the bottom of the sea.
Yeah.
And when I was there, the goal became find fulfillment here. Find yourself here.
At the bottom, that became your goal, is to find. Yeah,
yes,
okay.
and that was part of, like, it was all in that time when I was talking about like how do I figure out who I am. Let's forget about music for a second. Who am I? And how can I be fulfilled where I am right now when I sank down to the bottom and I wasn't making any money anymore and I wasn't getting recognized and all these big things that people care about for fame and wealth or whatever. But I basically got to the place where nothing was happening in my career. Nothing was happening in my career. And every number that any analytic person could look at would tell you that. And I was happy again. I got there because I knew who I was, and I knew what I knew the things to do to enjoy the passage of time.
Yeah.
And if I could be doing those things, I feel fulfilled. Whatever happens. Okay, now let's hit the ground with that as the foundation. And so now I'm here and I feel like some balls are rolling. I feel really excited about the next year with all the goals I have and the aspirations for the music and for the touring and blah, blah, blah. And I know what all of that excitement sits on is that is not the source of the happiness.
Yeah.
The fulfillment and the happiness is already there.
Yes.
And that is how I view the industry and everything. It makes it a lot easier.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, man. That's so powerful. I feel like there's nothing wrong with having goals. I think it's important to have goals.
Yeah.
To like backwards plan from those goals, to do stuff every single day that help you reach those goals. But to be able to have a sense of joy and fulfillment, regardless of like, regardless of like whether or not you reach those, is, I mean, that's what I feel. I feel like a lot of artists, that's why there's burnout.
Yeah.
That's why there is like artists quit.
Yeah. Well, and I want to be super clear that joy that I'm talking about is very I've said this in some videos. It's very effortful joy. Like, I have to work.
Choice.
I have to go to therapy. I have to take my meds. I have to constantly be seeking the things that I know fulfill me and carving space for that when I could be doing this and this and this. It's effortful, but it's the only way that is going to work. So that's totally how I feel as well.
That's amazing. All right. I just to kind of wrap this, you mentioned that you fell in love with the work of two Johns, and you've already mentioned one in the episode. The second John is John Ronald Reuel.
J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yes. So can you just describe how one thing that fascinates me, I think, and is important for any journey of any artist that's like trying to find themselves and like define their brand and like come up with their mission, is to be inspired by there's a book sitting over here that I love called Still Like an Artist, and I feel like basically the premise of that book is like artists are like an amalgamation of like all their inspirations, and they're like applying that in their own unique way. So can you just explain like how J.R.R. Tolkien's like inspired you and your work, and then like this EP that you have out now?
Well, I have so many thoughts. First of all, this is Gandalf behind me, and the Shire, and also
awesome.
some other stuff. I in the dark times is when I never really grew up on Lord of the Rings, really. But I started watching all the movies, and I connected with them more than I really have with any other art. And I read all the books, and I dove in so hard. What I connect with is also learning about Tolkien, who built this world. He fought in World War I and lost a bunch of his friends. I could weep.
Yeah,
I could weep
dude,
thinking
that's
about.
tough.
I like it. Just makes me really emotional because then he comes out of like World War I. Like there had never been that kind of destruction and death in modern history, and he comes out and he writes Samwise Gamgee, who says, "There is good in the world, and it is worth fighting for." It is a choice of joy that Tolkien steeps his story in. Hopelessness and like a little guy that can't fight well. He's a hobbit, and he's still the one that's going to climb the mountain of doom and save the entire world. It is so hopeful to me, and it is such an active choice of joy in resistance to, like, this guy lost all his friends on the battlefield and like had every reason to just be pissed off and angry with the world, and made something so hopeful. And I wear I wear my one ring at all times.
That's awesome.
Anyways, it's
I love it.
It's who I am, dude. But yeah, that's.
Have you been to New Zealand?
I haven't. I want to go so bad. So
I did orchestras growing up, and we did a tour to Australia and New Zealand. And I've been to the Shire where they filmed it.
Oh my God.
So since I've been, they've actually they would open you open the door, and it's just like, it was just a set basically. Right. There's no like actual Hobbit burrow or whatever, but apparently now it's like they've actually built them into the side of these. Yeah. I mean, you gotta go. I have to go. It's insane.
It's a lifelong dream for sure. But I just connect so heavily with that story, and so that's why the two Johns, John Denver and John Ronald Rule, they are the inspiration, because John Denver influences the way the sound is and the substance, and Tolkien influences the heart of it. Like, what is the message, and why choose joy when there is so much garbage going on in the world, which there is. And I was angry, just angry about, and just writing from that angry place for a really long time. So those are my Johns, and I love them.
What process did you go through to kind of like narrow it down to those two guys?
I didn't have to. I just got obsessed. Like you can't change the things that you want to be intaking so much. So then I'm very like, let's dive into why. And so then I just ask the questions. Why am I so attracted to this story? Why am I so interested in John Denver's music? And you find those things, you find the puzzle pieces that fit together, or the common denominators, the patterns, and they lined up with where I was heading and where I was going, and influenced where I was heading and where I was going. So I recorded Outside the Frame, which is my debut EP, 5 tunes.
Yes.
We did the whole thing straight to analog tape. No auto-tune, no quantizing, just 5 guys in a room making choices off each other. There's like no drums on it. It's all just like acoustic string instruments and an accordion.
That is crazy.
Yeah. It was.
What do you think about why did you make that choice, and what are your thoughts on this? That feels like you're a pivot away from like AI and a lot of the directions that
very intentionally against AI. Intentionally against even just like the cookie cutter Nashville thing where everything is buttoned up to a T and is quite perfect. I saw a video where someone was like showing this old performance clip of Sabrina Carpenter before she blew up. And they were like, oh, why does she sound so bad? She didn't. that's just what a live vocal sounds like. You know, she sounded fine. She sounded really good, actually. You're just used to auto-tune on these giant stadium tours, and you're used to auto-tune on every recording that you hear. And it's not authentic. It's not real. And I have a lot of songs out with that stuff on it. And when I listen back, I'm like, that sounds amazing. I sound great, though I don't actually sound that good. So it was partly in like such a conscious choice and a belief in what I do as my human body, and partly in a response to like, I connect with music that was made in the 70s, John Denver's music, James Taylor's. How do I make my music the same way they did? What can I do? And my producer said, music that is made today sounds like a photograph of the world, but all those old recordings that we're talking about, they sound like a painting of it. Wow. And I was like, let's work together. Please.
You have the job.
You have the job, sir. So
that's fascinating, by the way, because I feel like that I'm glad we hit this before we wrap, because I feel like when you have such a strong understanding of, this is same brand brings a lot of like feelings for people, but really like you just understand who you are, what your mission is. And then out from that, what I've seen this happen with content, just so much creativity flows and like choices just become easy. Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of times artists, there's burnout, there's struggle, a lot of struggle, not that there won't be struggle, but there's like unnecessary struggle because there's so like, there's just dissonance between what they're doing and who they actually are. Yeah. And that's torture.
100%. And I've been there, dude. I have felt that. Yeah. But luckily I say this very intentionally. Luckily, I did not have enough success to not have the time to figure it out. Right. And that feels so gratifying to say, because I was so sad that nothing was happening for so long. But it's the nothingness allowed me to really experience why I am doing this, because it is self-actualization. It is learning who I am by creating things that feel like me. And this project is like very much in my eyes a happy ending to that story. And Tolkien has a quote about happy endings, which I will tell you now. In such stories, when the sudden turn comes, we get a piercing glimpse of joy and heart's desire that for a moment passes outside the frame, rends indeed the very web of story, and lets a gleam come through. Which is also the quote inspiring the title of the project, Outside the Frame.
Wow. I feel like that's a great place to wrap this. Thanks so much, dude, for your time and for sharing this. And I'm just really excited to see where this takes you, like with this journey that you've been on. So thanks for taking the time, dude.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.